This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gould.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. I'm your host, Steve Gould. Thank you for joining us, everybody. This is gonna be episode number 98, getting dangerously close to 100. The show is chugging along. We're doing well. I'm spending more time with it. I'm taking a little bit more serious. The numbers are getting pretty good. We're going to be someday in the near future, I think we'll hit 1 million downloads for the show total, which is really, really good in podcasting. I was recently told the show is in the top half a percentile for podcasts globally. Had no idea that you could even check that out, but there is a website that you can put your name of your show in, and you select your show and it tells you. So that was shocking. I was quite shocked at that. So that's all the credit goes to the guests and the stories, and people are just digging it. They love to hear a cop talk, and they love to get to see what it's really like. And my favorite emails I get are from non-police officers who listen to the show, and they say, wow, I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know these guys or these girls dealt with that or saw this type of thing. So that's the whole point of the podcast, and I'm super happy with the progress. I'd love to get the ratings over 1,000 on Apple. So if you listen to the show and you really like it, I appreciate if you go there. You don't even have to leave. I mean, I love seeing like a written out review, but you can just tap the 5 stars in the app and that will do it. If you do that for me, thank you. That would be great. I want to, right at the top here, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, the donors. It sounds medical to me, but people who sponsor the show with a monthly subscription, let's say. That's who I want to thank. Let me just find these people. Here we go. Cue the music. Oh yeah, we got Jeremy Woods, Tony Fahey, Jacob Ruth, Rich Emery, Deputy William James Long, Samantha Harper, the great Gary Steiner, the magnificent Richard Wilson, Scott O'Donnell, David Diaz, Timothy Wright. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I'm in love with you, whether you're comfortable with that or not. I am. Appreciate you and all that you do for the show. Would love for that list to be longer. ThingsPoliceC.com. Go there. You can be even $1 a month. You know, that'd be great. Anything. If everybody listened gave $1 a month, this could just be my job. That'd be cool. That'd be cool for me. So anyways, thank you for all the continued support. If you want to continue to support, go to the website. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's hear some police. Let's hear a policeman tell some stories. We've got an active guy. Not going to use his full name. We're not going to name his agency, but we'll give you an idea where he's working. And give him the old questions. See what he's got to say. So we got Michael. Just gonna go with Michael. Not even gonna say the last name. Michael from a large department in Nebraska, and he's been on the job 7 years. He's done FTO, and he's done some work in the gang unit. So he's got some stories to tell. Let's bring him in. Michael, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. You ready to rock?
Yeah.
So you listen to the show.
Yep.
You know what to expect.
A little bit, yeah.
In Nebraska.
First I've done a podcast, so.
Do a lot of people listen to the show in Nebraska? I'm looking to stroke my ego here a little bit.
I'm not sure, actually.
Make something up.
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask around more. I'm not sure yet.
Doesn't matter, Michael, because you listen and you're providing me with valuable content by coming on here. So you're on the job 7 years. This is your first and only agency?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How big is the department? How many members do you have, like, approximately?
It kind of fluctuates. We had a lot of retirements. It's around about 800 to 900. So
that's a good size.
So pretty good size. Yeah.
So this is a kind of a department you can get into any specialty you want. You could
motor
unit, you could ride a bicycle, you could be in gangs, you could be detectives, school resource. you can do any of it. All right. So the gang stuff, is that how many? Is that multi-jurisdictional, or is it just your agency doing that?
So we have, ours is mainly our agency, but they do coordinate with, they have task force officers, so they work with the alphabet agencies. They do some statewide stuff, and even some cross-border stuff too with neighboring agencies as well. So they do quite a bit.
That's good. That's like the Axel Foley stuff. That's what you want to do. You want to get into that full time, and then like your chief lieutenant doesn't know where you are. You're out there in the wind, kicking ass, growing a big beard, driving an old, I don't know, Miata or something.
Yeah, something like that.
That's it. Is that the goal?
And maybe it just depends on if the wife is going to be happy with that or not.
Oh yeah, you're married. Forget it. You're just stay in patrol. Yeah. Day shift patrol that's your future. All right, brother. Let's get down to it. Can you tell us the first hot call you responded to? The first thing that really got your heart going.
So let's see. So I got out of the academy in December, end of December, early January. So it's pretty cold. So and I started on overnight. So I would say the first couple of shifts weren't too crazy. But me and my field training officer heard some fire tones for just a fire alarm nearby at a funeral home. And we're like, whatever. It's slow. There's one call on the board where we were at. So we decided to go there. And sure enough, we're the first people on scene. And we pull up and this funeral home's on fire. And it's a pretty large establishment. And one of the employees runs out and is like, hey, this is my first shift. I'm by myself, and they're running the cremator. They run it in the mornings. And so we, get on the radio and tell fire, hey, there's a working fire here. You're going to have to send some more people. And she's telling us they can't get the gas shut off. Ooh. So, I mean, this fire is getting pretty big. They get there a couple minutes later, the fire department does. And, I'm only 22 at the time. And so I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I've never seen a fire this big. And so we're probably about 150 feet from the building.
It's crazy how you can feel the heat, right?
Oh, yeah. Nuts. And I mean, this is a big fire. So they sent some firefighters up onto the roof. They were doing something up there. I'm not sure what. And then they had one of those boom lifts with the fire captain was sitting up there telling them kind of something. I don't know. I couldn't hear exactly what he was saying, but he was telling him something. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he started yelling, get off the roof. And the roof exploded off of this funeral home. What happened was the gas was going into the attic, and then it ignited at some point and just, blew the roof off this place.
Damn.
There's wood, all kinds of debris getting thrown at us. So, a partner take off running because we're getting pelted with everything.
Yeah.
And we don't have any gear, we're just out there in our winter coats and freezing. And the explosion injured 4 or 5 firefighters on the roof. One of them broke both of his legs. Ooh. And it was bad. So it knocked their ladder that they had off of the side of the building. So after it kind of died down for a second, I ran over and grabbed the ladder, and me and my partner got the ladder put back up on the roof so they could get off of the roof, what was left of it. So they're like, hey, we're going to lower the one that had his legs broken down. It's like, you guys are going to have to carry him. So they lowered him down. We had to carry, 200-pound firefighter with all of his SCBA on and everything.
Good thing you guys were there.
Yeah. So we helped get him to the ambulance, which was stationed nearby, helped the other guys get down. And then they're like, hey, we're getting a distress call on the other side of the building. And we're like, okay. So we grab our police cruiser because we were blocking fire, just how we always normally do. So we're blocking the rest of the trucks from coming in. So we grab our police cruiser, drive around to the other side of the building. Because this building's probably 30 or 40,000 square feet. It's huge.
Yeah. Did it smell weird when it was burning, like human?
No.
Barbecue? No.
No. It just a huge gas fire is what it smelled like. So we drove around the other side of the building, got out of the way from the rest of the trucks that were coming in, because this turned into like a 5 or 6 engine response. I mean, this was a pretty wild incident. And on the other side, we didn't know, and I don't think there was a lot of communication between some of the firefighters. The owner of the funeral home actually went inside with another firefighter trying to shut off the gas, because that was what was making this fire just keep breathing more. And this awning had fallen on top of the owner and another firefighter, so that when we got back there, the owner is bleeding from the head, but he's still conscious. The firefighter actually had dove on top of the owner, and he's completely out cold. So we drag him away from this awning and call for another ambulance to come back there, because he's out cold. I mean, we can't wake him up.
Oh my
he's
gosh.
Still breathing and stuff like that. But so we helped strip his gear off of him, get his coat off, get the SCBA equipment off, and they get him stabilized and rush him to the hospital with the other firefighter that broke his legs. So
sounds like mayhem.
It was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. And the worst part is the gas company couldn't get out there to shut the gas off for like 30 minutes. Ooh. So at one point there was a apartment buildings nearby. They were just hosing the apartment building with water. They couldn't fight the fire coming from the building because the gas was still going. So they were just shooting water on nearby buildings, trying to keep it from those catching fire too. I mean, it was nothing like I've ever seen, even now.
Damn, man. Your uniform must have stunk. You ruined your uniform.
It was and I made the mistake. I didn't wear my waterproof boots that night, and it probably wouldn't have made a difference anyways, because the water when we were out there, it was up almost to our knees. This is January 25th, I think.
Oh my gosh, in Nebraska,
so
it's freezing.
It's cold. Yeah.
Damn.
So that was a long night.
Damn, man. I mean, it seems like you guys were doing it by yourselves. Where the hell was everybody else? Any other police unit show up?
They did, but at that point they were more tasked with blocking the roads, because they ended up having to block it was like a 4-square block, like perimeter, because they had to drag so many hoses in. Otherwise it would have collapsed the water main in the area because of how many units they had going at once.
Dude, that's freaky. I mean, the reason also that's so scary is when you're a cop, you don't fully know what they're doing or what's going on, like at the fire scene. You know what I mean? I don't anyways. Yeah. Like you don't, it's like you're there, you want to help, but it's like they know when it's safe to do so. We don't really, it's like, that's nuts. What'd your field trainer have to say after that?
He was in the same boat as me, man. He had never seen anything like that before too. And it took a long time to process everything. So like, man, luckily we decided to take that call, and we're pretty close to help when we could. 'Cause, and at least in our agency or our city, they'll send one truck out to these fire alarms. This is, 99% of the time they're, they're nothing. Or somebody pulled the alarm, but there's no actual flame.
They'll just send like the duty truck or whatever.
One call yet. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
and you were like, no, this is real. Please help us. Damn, man. Yeah, that's a good first one for sure. All right. All right, brother. Can you tell us a strange or bizarre thing you've dealt with in the great state of Nebraska?
I was thinking about this for a bit. There's definitely a great one that I have that most of your viewers are probably going to find disturbing, actually.
Well, this question used to be like I used to say humorous, strange, bizarre, or humorous, but then it was like no one thinks this stuff's funny but us. Like you're about to say something really effed up, and people are like, "It's not funny." I mean, it's bizarre. So that's why I changed the question. So let it rip, man.
Yeah. So also in field training, this is would have been third phase. So I don't know, probably a couple months after the funeral home fire. We also get another call to assist fire on like a nature unknown medical call.
You're like, no.
We're like, okay, like whatever. We get there and it's just absolute chaos. We get there and this guy opens the door. We get there at the same time the fire department does. He opens the door and he's got blood all over his arms. And he's frantic. He's like, my girlfriend's in the back room. We go back there and it looks like a homicide scene. There's just blood everywhere. And she's completely non-responsive. She's breathing, but just non-responsive. Can't wake her up. There's so much blood. We can't tell if there's any wounds. Fire's freaking out. My FTO's like, hey, go handcuff this guy. Well, it's like, well, I can't. He's got a cast on one arm. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do with this guy, And so we go sit him down in the kitchen and we're like, what happened? And then we're asking for more units because we showed up just as a one officer car. So we started asking for more cars to get there because my field training officer's like, what the hell? I don't know what's going on either. And Fire's like, we can't see any obvious injuries. We don't know where all this blood's coming from.
What did the guy say?
He wouldn't say anything. He was crying. He's freaking out. And my field training officer is like, I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to wait until we get a little more info before we start grilling this guy because, did you stab her? What happened?
Right.
And so at the same time, her uncle shows up, who's the owner of the house, as they're wheeling her out covered in blood. And another unit shows up and they go with her trying to see if she wakes up at all in the ambulance and can give some kind of story. And her uncle, he's wanting to beat this guy up and we still don't even know what's happening. So finally he's like, all right, we were drinking all day. She's really intoxicated and we were having sex all day. And at some point she told me to fist her.
Oh,
and
boy.
So my field training officer, without even hesitation, he's like, what arm did you use? Because he's got a cast on one hand and he's like, so he's like, no, I didn't use that hard. But we're like, I mean, seriously, what happened? He's like, well, the lights were off, so I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden I stopped hearing what she was talking about. And then I turned the lights on and she was unconscious and there was just blood everywhere. And that's when he called 911.
Oh, my. No wonder he wouldn't tell you guys what happened. Wow.
Yeah. And her uncle's here at the same time listening to the story at this point. And so they get her to the hospital. She was like over a 0.4 on blood alcohol. They ended up, I think, pumping her stomach because she, was getting dangerously close to dying from her alcohol level. I don't know what ended up being the full story on everything because he actually ended up having a warrant, so we booked him into jail. And our detectives were going to follow up with her whenever she had regained consciousness. But that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Dude, you're banned from the podcast, Michael. No, that's a good one, man. Can you imagine her uncle? Oh, alcohol. Alcohol is the devil, my friend.
So...
hopefully he obviously made something else up when he talked to her dad. He's like, oh, she fell in the backyard or something. Hit her vagina on a rock or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It was bad.
Damn, man. That's insane. Did you guys do any follow-up or did detectives just take it?
So it was a pretty busy night too. So normally we would have our forensics team come out and photograph some type of scene like that, but they were like, hey, just take some pictures and then upload them to our evidence storage and we'll just follow up with it later. So I felt even awkward just doing that because I was like, if this turns out to be something different, I'm a brand new guy and we got this cluster of a call by ourselves and it's
Wow, man. That's a goodie. That's a good one. Dang. You have were you indicating you had more than one bizarre story, or was that the main one you wanted to share?
I think that was probably one of the better ones.
I don't think you could say anything else. I mean, that is horrific. Now, did you tell your wife this story?
I have, yeah.
She must have been like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, she thought it was just as bizarre as I did, and
dang,
was pretty grossed out from the details.
I'm gonna have to put some kind of warning on the front of this episode. But you've heard the podcast. There are some crazy stories like that. Absolutely. All right, man. It's a good one. So can we get into your most intense or terrifying call that you went on?
Probably most intense. This one, I would have probably been on the job about 2.5 years or so. Me and another officer got sent to a domestic. It sounded like more just like a boyfriend-girlfriend argument. And the weird thing is it was right down the street from my house where I was currently living. Yeah. So
you guys have take-home cars?
No.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah. So I get close by the area. I'm waiting. We usually that night I had a partner, but he had a ride along, so they don't let us ride 3 in a car. So I was by myself, and the other officer that was supposed to be responding with me was farther out than I was. So I stood by in the area. They gave another update that they were waiting at this Taco Bell parking lot. The female went to Taco Bell because he broke her phone, so she couldn't call 911. So they give an update. I was waiting in the area. The other officer said, "Oh, I'm in the area too." So, that usually means you're within 30 seconds from pulling up. So I pull up. Don't know where the other officer's at. The guy immediately gets out of the car. He's confrontational with me, and I don't see any obvious injuries or anything like that. So I'm still trying to just kind of keep the peace for a bit until we can kind of separate him and talk to him more. He's like, "Well, I'm just going to leave." I'm like, "No, they're just staying here, buddy." So I think the female worked at the Taco Bell. So one of her managers came out, and it was actually kind of friends with both of them. So he actually was kind of keeping the peace with the male while I was talking to the female, but I could still keep eyes on both. At this time, I still don't know where my backup's at. And he's smoking a cigarette. I'm still thinking it's kind of possibly just going to be a civil domestic, but she did say, "Oh, he broke my phone."
Right.
So I see him flick a cigarette, and he looks over. I'm like, he's going to run. So he takes off running. I start chasing him. He actually turns onto my block where I live, and
wave at your wife as you go by.
Yeah. Well, so at the time, my wife also worked overnights at her job. She's not a cop, but
Gotcha.
She worked overnights at her job. So she was getting ready to go to work, and she actually was running late. Had she not been running late, she actually probably would have been driving down the street watching me chase this guy. So I tackle him. We start fighting. He grabbed my shoulder lapel on my uniform shirt and actually ripped it down. And I end up on my back in guard, and he's throwing haymakers, and we're beating the hell out of each other. And I still have no idea where this other officer's at that's supposed to be responding with me.
Damn.
So
yeah, now you're not even at the spot. You've run off.
No, yeah. So this incident goes on for about 2 minutes or so. I mean, it's a pretty long street fight.
Yeah.
And luckily I had a little bit of skills before I had started the job. I wrestled for a long time. I did some MMA before I started as a cop.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yep, jiu-jitsu. So I was able to control him quite a bit, but this guy's pretty big too. He's about 230 pounds. At the time I was about 230 pounds. So he's a big guy. We're about evenly matched in size and muscularity. So it's just hard to get him off of me. And, I'm also trying not to get, my head cracked into the concrete. So
right.
I ended up having to hit my emergency button because I can see my backup driving up and down the street, but they're not turning the direction I'm telling them to turn. And I'm like, I just need him shoved off of me. That's all I need. And after that, it's, we can go to work after that. But I'm my gear's everywhere. I lost my pocket knife. Sale. Yeah. And I kept my gun towards the ground so he couldn't get any of that. But it was a mess. So finally, I kick him off of me. He goes to get back up, and I end up kicking him back down to the ground. My actual partner shows up with his ride along. He this is past disciplinary time, but he was driving a little fast with his ride along. Yeah. So he shows up, helps me get him into custody. My shirt's ripped. I mean, from, basically my armpit all the way down to like my pants. All my gear's everywhere. I got a bunch of road rash. His teeth are all jacked up and his mouth's all jacked up. And So we get him into cuffs. I still never saw the other officer that was supposed to be backing me up. And my partner starts taking this guy down, or my regular partner starts taking this guy down to jail while I gather the rest of my stuff and try to make
tuck your
make
shirt
sense
in
of what just happened. Yeah.
Right.
So my partner, on his way taking this guy to jail, runs into my wife as she's leaving leaving to go to work. He's like, "Hey, has your husband talked to you?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "Oh, he just got in this horrible fight down the street."
Oh, well, come on. What is he doing?
So she panics, and my phone's in my cruiser. So I'm walking back to where I started this whole thing at, and my sergeant's got a million questions for me, and everything else.
Do your use of force report.
My phone up. Yeah, she's blowing my phone up, and I still hasn't heard anything. So I finally get a hold of her. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I got in a pretty good fight. I'm okay. Just kind of bumped and bruised and whatnot." But come to find out, the female was my neighbor, and that was her boyfriend.
Wonderful.
And I mean, literally across the street. Not even that's where he was running to. He was running to her house, which is across the street from my house. I'm like, "Oh, that sucks." Shit. Yeah. So he ended up going to prison for about 3 years for that, which was pretty crazy. But thankfully I didn't have to see him really much after that. But and I've since moved. But I was like, wow, what are the odds? But yeah, that was pretty wild. I right after that, I realized how much more I needed jujitsu. I took some time off after I got on the job, and I think within probably a couple weeks had enrolled back into a jiu-jitsu academy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hear a lot of guys say that I've never taken jiu-jitsu. I took martial arts when I was younger, but it's amazing how quickly you get gassed, even if you do train.
Oh, yeah.
Like a street fight when your adrenaline's up. Like there's even fighting somebody small, even if you outnumber them, but they're on drugs or something, you have to wrestle them for like 5 or 10 minutes. Afterwards, you're like, your limbs feel like lead. It's friggin' hardcore, and it's scary when you're alone. I mean, you're supposed to have someone coming to back you up, and you guys are off in the night somewhere. This guy's on top of you, just throwing haymakers. And I mean, once you get with all that gear on, I don't know if you have the tack vest and the belt or what you roll with, but you kind of get like turtle-backed. Like once you're on your back with that stuff, the gun
keeps hard to,
the gun, and then I have I wear a vest, like a patrol vest, but I have my obviously gun. Then I have my batons on my belt, some other things on my belt, mostly all up here. But once you get down, rolling on your gun side's hard because your gun stops you. And then on the other side, you could have other gear. And someone's sitting on you. It's not going to happen. You're just like, your head is just a target for melee. Thankfully, hopefully, was he drunk or something? Did that help?
No, he wasn't intoxicated. He had just gotten out of prison. He'd probably been out for a couple of months.
But he didn't land too many in your face, which is good.
No, I blocked pretty much all of his punches. He didn't block any of mine. I mean, mine landed pretty good. But, he came close. But if he would have landed any of those, I mean, I'm on, bare concrete. It would not have been a good day.
Yeah. You ever remember that video of I think it's like a Florida state trooper or something, and it's this ex-con, and this ex-con just hits her with all of his body weight.
Oh,
and the girl and his daughter's in the car like, "Daddy, don't, you're going to go back to jail."
Yeah.
I just recently heard that that woman's like disabled now, that trooper.
Jesus.
Yeah, he beat the sense out of her. I mean, she never recovered. I mean, it's horrific. And I mean, they showed that to all of us in academy, but it's like the Incredible Hulk punching a party balloon. It's just like boom! My gosh! So yeah, man, those fights like that are terrifying. You're lucky. He didn't land any punches or it didn't go on for too much longer. Awful. You might end up shooting the guy.
Yeah, it definitely could have went there. I felt comfortable with enough. I ended up getting him into a triangle chokehold, which is something our department didn't really recognize, but as a acceptable use of force. But I had to do, what I just resulted back to, and that's what I've been training for a couple of years. So
yeah, like I don't understand mean, I get it. They're people who make laws a lot of times they don't know what they're doing when it comes to stuff. But it's like this, in a lot of the Northeast states where I am, they've completely banned chokeholds. Completely.
Yeah.
Like it used to be written where you could use a chokehold if you could use your gun. Like deadly force chokehold, not even that anymore. So now you're getting into a situation where, like that police-involved shooting that just happened, where he wrestled with this guy for a while. The guy got his taser.
Yeah.
He couldn't use a chokehold, so he shot the guy in the head. Do you think maybe it would have been okay to let him use a chokehold? The guy, you know what I mean? Like, now you're going to go from, I can't use a chokehold, so I'm going to shoot you in the head. Like, this doesn't make sense. There's a place for chokeholds. They're definitely, especially if it's your life on the line. I don't know what they're doing where in your neck of the woods, but where I am, they're completely banning chokeholds. You cannot choke somebody. Like, if you choke somebody in the defense of your life or somebody else's, and it's a deadly force situation, you have broken department policy, state law, and you're screwed. I mean, you're going to go to jail. They'll try you for murder here. So I think about not being a cop in this state all the time, Michael. Luckily, I work in the country, and it's like, it's pretty good. But if I was mixing it up every day, I'd be worried all the time. It's like some of these cities around me, these guys are fighting all the time. It's like you could really get taken to the bank with the way the laws are written. But well, I'm glad that you made it out okay, and that everything. I'm sure you had all the right answers for your sergeant who was wondering, Right.
Oh yeah, there was a long discussion.
What were you going to charge him with? What were the charges? Like, at least you had to smash cell phones, so that's like up here. That's like intimidation or kidnapping or whatever,
It did come out that she had some minor injuries from a physical altercation that they had. Without having my backup there, I hadn't gotten too far into her story with trying to keep both of them at distance. And sizing this guy up, he's a pretty big human being, so. So didn't want to take that fight on by myself initially, but it's just how it happened, I guess.
Yep, sometimes it goes down like that. I want to do a segue here for the next question. Didn't we talk about a story in Academy or something? There's something humorous.
Yeah, so I had probably arguably one of the worst couple of weeks into the academy, and then the last part of my academy sucked too. So
I love to hear about other people suffering.
So yeah, exactly. So probably about a year and a half before I got in the academy, I had a partial tear to my Achilles tendon. So that made running pretty horrible for me. So the background history is I have about 14 other family members that have been employed with the department that I work for.
Holy cow. So you guys are keeping the place running.
Yeah. So I'm third generation on the department that I work for. So that's closest awesome. Relatives, up to uncle and stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome. It's amazing that, so many of us have worked there, and
that's a real legacy, man.
Yeah. So, that unfortunately that kind of became the talk around the academy. So the instructors held no punches against me when I first got there. So so I actually got into the academy class a year before, but then they gave me my conditional offer and stuff like that. And then like a couple weeks before the academy started, they're like, hey, actually, you'll be an alternate for this class. We took a spot away or whatever. So I'm like, okay. I was kind of mad at the time. I just turned 21. And I realize now that was not the time for me to go through the academy. I needed some maturing to do. And I put my pride aside. I don't think my Achilles would have held up to going through the academy. Gotcha. That close to when I had injured it. So I get to the academy. I show up the first day. I knew I had to bring a suit and stuff like that. And I knew we had to do our PT tests and whatever that day. So then all of a sudden they're like, hey, here's the list of gear. Did you guys have this on you? I'm like, what list of gear?
Oh, I didn't
get this list. So I've got workout
and there's
clothes,
so much gear usually.
So we were supposed to have like these matching t-shirt and shorts. We were supposed to have these locks. We were supposed to have all these other things. We were supposed to bring a check, like a personal check to buy our firearms. So we have to buy our own firearms. I was told that we could use a credit card. So I had my credit card with me.
Awesome.
There's all these things we're supposed to have. And I'm like, I don't have any of this. So,
oh my gosh.
So as you can imagine, I'm just getting ripped in the hallway every break that we have for not having this stuff. And they sent out the emails and it was supposed to have your badge number in it. And so I'm like, I don't know what my badge number is.
Oh,
so
no. Like, Michael, how did this happen? How did this, were you the only one there from your agency?
No, this we had our own in-house agency.
Oh, so your own academy
that I'm going to be working with. Yeah. So my email had no attachments. Everybody else had all these Amazon attachments and all these other things.
Wait, did they do this on purpose because you are a legacy?
I don't know. I've never gotten that answer.
I bet
they did too. Because they didn't believe me. I'm getting yelled at in the hallway. Like, oh, you didn't follow any of these policies or whatever. And so I pull up the email and I show them, hey, I don't have any of these attachments and my badge number is not listed on the email. I'm sorry, but I didn't know I was supposed to bring these things. And they still said it was my fault. So fast forward, this is in the summer. So yeah, it's summertime. It's 100 and I think 3 degrees outside. We've been sitting in a classroom all day in our suits and stuff like that. So we've been there since 7:15 in the morning. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's time to go take our PT test. And we take our PT test and we're told there's a certain time that you have to hit on your 1.5 mile run. I had 2 laps left and my calf was done on my Achilles leg. Ooh. And there was probably 4 or 5 other people that were suffering probably from heat stroke at this point. So they're like, hey, if you don't pass, you got to come back tomorrow and you have to repeat the entire test, not just whatever event that you don't pass. So I skate past the line apparently a second later than what they said the required time was, only to find out later that this was actually a pilot class for this. So I actually had met the required time, but they set the standard a little bit actually lower than that.
Dude, so you're the worst luck.
So I came back the next morning at 5:30 in the morning and had to repeat the entire PT test, and I passed it by minutes ahead the next morning. And then I had to go to the academy and get smoked all day with everybody else. And then, I still getting grilled about not having the stuff that I was supposed to have. Because now I got to wait for this stuff to come in on Amazon, because some of it, like these locks, you can't get them locally. So I have to wait for this stuff. So I don't have some of the gear. And then that Friday where they still didn't have all of our BDU pants and all of our boots and stuff like that in. The equipment company that we were using just was not great. And so we're still working out in our freaking dress clothes. They wouldn't let us wear like 511s or whatever else. We're still wearing
classmates are probably
Dockers.
Like, good. Pay attention to him.
Yeah, Dockers and dress shirts, and we're doing morning PT in our dress clothes. And
oh my gosh!
We're doing lunges, and also I hear a tear, and I'm like, oh, I was like, man, that sucks. Somebody's pants just ripped. And then I started feeling a nice breeze on my own thighs, and I was like, shit, those are my pants that just ripped. They ripped from the top of the seam all the way down to like halfway through my thigh. So I have like this massive hole.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're not made for exercise.
Yeah. And the worst part is the news was there that day filming our academy to put it on our local news channel that there was a new police class going through. So they didn't air it, but they had a great action shot probably of, my boxers hanging out at the back of my Dockers.
Oh,
and all of our senior command had showed up at some point throughout the day. And the worst part is I only lived like 10 or 15 minutes away. and my wife was off that day. I was like, hey, my wife can bring me some new pants, but we weren't allowed to have our phones in the building. So I'm like, hey, I can call my wife. And they're like, well, let's just do this. Go grab some of your PT shorts and put them on under your ripped Dockers.
Oh, so my God. So uncomfortable.
I had to walk around the rest of the day like that and just field all the questions from everybody else, all the senior command people. Hey, what's wrong with that kid's pants? So, wow. And then later that day, they tell me, hey, you're going to be our, we're sectioned up into like 5 squads because we had so many recruits. Leader. Yeah, you're going to be your squad leader for the first day that you guys have all of your uniform stuff. Everything better be pressed and shine. And if anything's wrong with it, you're going to get burned. And sure enough, I tried to set up a meeting with all the people that were in my squad. Like, hey, we need to look good because this is right on my ass. Yeah. And somebody showed up. Their boots weren't polished in my squad, and we got smoked to death. I mean, it was terrible. So yeah, the rest of the middle of the academy went fine, and then a couple weeks before graduation, my appendix burst. Jeez. In the middle of training. Yeah, so I had surgery at the end of, probably about a month and a half left of the academy, and had to deal with that. So I almost got delayed into our field training program, but luckily I was able to hurry up and get stuff made up. I probably didn't come back at 100%, but I'm fine now. So,
damn, man, that's harrowing. They were definitely effing with you because of the legacy thing. I know sure
they were at some.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't miss those days. How long was your academy?
It's right about 6 months, and then we had about 4 months of field training.
Yeah, ours was 21 weeks. I think it might be 22 or 23 now, but it was 21 when I went through it. It feels like Police Academy is funny because it feels like you never get through it, and then you get halfway and you're like, oh my gosh, this took forever. But then the second half, for me anyways, flew by because you start to do more fun stuff, I think they all do the same thing. They like tear you up. They build you up and tear you down a bunch of times.
Oh man, ours felt just like a complete tear down for a while. I mean, we were
6
by
months
far,
of tear down, 1 week of build up.
we were by far probably one of the most in shape classes that had come out of there in a while. They burned us the last day of the academy before our graduation, like multiple times throughout the day. And I was like, wow, I thought it was going to be lax, but it definitely was not.
Yeah, we got chewed out the day of our graduation. It was supposed to be like over, you know what I mean? But the senior staff, the senior drill instructor had one more. I think because he didn't want us to screw up graduation, and the governor of the state was going to be there. But it was like you were supposed to, all through academy, park your cars in a certain way from size to color coordination to first cruisers by size, then private cars or unmarked by certain size and length, and the whole thing to screw with you. So we had done it. Yeah. We learned it. We had learned where everybody goes, and then for graduation, I think we were told like you didn't have to do that by like the director of the academy, and then no one told the drill instructor that. He thought it would be a great idea to get us, we're all half dressed, trying to get dressed for it. And he's like, get outside. And I'm like, this is not happening. Why are you doing this to us? But I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but we had a party afterwards where we got to like have beers with the drill instructors. It was like one of the best moments of your life when you finally can talk to this guy like he's a human being. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're a madman.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to attend that. The day of my graduation was pretty bad too, but my grandma actually passed away while I was at my graduation. Damn. So I immediately left there, got my badge, because I was like, hey, can I just get my badge real quick? Because I got told the news right before I'm getting ready to go out for the presentation. I was like, just get my badge and I'm out of here. But that unfortunately I had to sit through, about an hour and a half, 2 hours of the presentation and then rush out of there and go handle what I had to handle. But I started field training the next day, so there was no break.
Mike, my goodness, you really got your kicking the balls and right to the end.
Yeah, it was not great. Yeah.
But you persevered. So, you made it.
Yep.
I had a buddy that was he went to police academy later in life, like in his 40s, and he was so intent on it that he went on this crazy diet. And not like the modern diets now where it's like, oh, there's such a thing as good fat. He went on like low fat, like exercising, just starving himself. So he got into academy because he wanted to make sure he could keep up with the young guys and run and stuff. And then they had like a pizza party, like halfway through, and he had some pizza. Heaven forbid he had pizza. Well, because he restricted his fat so strictly for like 4 or 5 months, when he had the fat from the pizza, his gallbladder exploded. And he had to have gallbladder surgery. And it was like it's like his own fixation on like being overly fit, like destroyed him. Like he just was like, now I'm not going to make it because my gallbladder exploded. But same thing, he was able to get surgery, make up some classes, like a night class. Like we have like, at the time we had like reserve intermittent, like academy, like for part-time officers, you could go there and do makeups at night. So he probably did that and then whatever, but it was like, same idea. It was like, oh my gosh, this guy's trying to do everything right and his friggin' gallbladder explodes. Well, Mike, that was rough, man. I still have police guys do those things too. I'll still have like a nightmare randomly, like maybe once a year, about not having something and getting yelled at. You know what I mean? You have to go back to police academy and repeat this class because you didn't, whatever. F that place. I'm so, oh man, no thanks. All right, brother. Let's get back to the questions here. Heartwarming encounter. You got one of those?
Yeah, this one took some thought.
This is a hard one for police.
Yeah, so this one actually came off of a home invasion call that we had. So me and my partner at the time were going to meet up with 2 other officers who work like a proactive unit that we have in our city. We were going to meet up with them and try to, game plan what we're going to do for the rest of the night. Because we were working in a pretty high crime area. And we're literally pulling up down the street facing them. We're coming up. We're just going to belly up for a minute and talk. And all of a sudden a home invasion robbery call comes out. And I'm doing the math of our street numbers and stuff. I'm like, we're like right here. Like the call is like 2 houses or 3 houses from where we're at. So we hurry up, pull up there, turn our lights off, and park a few houses down and creep up to see kind of what's going on. The caller is in the basement. He's giving pretty good details, but something's just not really adding up. So the front door is open, but it's not forced open. But the caller can still say he can hear somebody yelling, like, give me something. So 2 units go to the back, me and my partner up at the front, and they're like, hey, this guy has a gun to this chick's head. They can see him through a bedroom window, just in the backyard. And so he's like, oh crap, I got to go grab my rifle. Cause we didn't know if this was going to be a BS call or whatever. So he goes to grab his rifle. This guy's wearing like some kind of clown mask or something. But you see a handgun like pointed at this lady. So he's going to grab his rifle because he's probably going to have to shoot this guy. But it would have been a difficult pistol shot from where we're at. So at some point, we're putting out on dispatch like, hey, we need units here. We need a K9. We need all these things. But hey, turn your sirens off, like, before you're close, because we don't want to alert this guy. This guy has a gun and he's pointed at this lady. So somebody doesn't listen, or the message just get relayed. He comes blasting in there with the lights and sirens, and the lights get shut off in this bedroom. I'm like, shit. So we still have the caller on the line. He can't come outside. He's in the basement, and he would have to come up right where this bedroom is to get outside. So he can't come outside. So the genius that's doing this home invasion robbery decides to use the light to his advantage and take off his mask and put the gun somewhere. And he tries to come out with the victims. He releases the victims out of the house and he comes out with them. Well, he was robbing these people for meth is what it ended up being. But he was too stupid to take all of their jewelry and their cell phones and the meth out of his pockets before he came outside.
Of course.
So it was pretty easy to put two and two together when we asked, hey, who was holding the gun? And they're like, well, I don't know this guy that just came out with us. So
Maybe
we figured that out. Yeah. So we go to clear the rest of the house, and it's a typical meth head house. It's gross. I mean, there's dog feces everywhere. There's trash everywhere. It just stinks. And like, hey, one team's going to take upstairs, the other team's going to take downstairs. And the upstairs team encounters a huge pit bull in one of the rooms, almost bites a couple officers.
Pit bulls are the worst.
They get it forced into a bathroom, and luckily nobody gets bit, and they don't end up having to shoot this dog. And I go downstairs with my partner, and our caller's supposed to be down there. So we're yelling down to him. He's not coming upstairs. And downstairs was worse. I don't know how it could have got worse, but it was worse. Yeah. There was trash everywhere still, more dog feces. My boots are covered in it at this point. I'm just sickened. And I go downstairs, and there was a 19-year-old autistic kid, and he's holding a samurai sword, and he's coming at us with the samurai sword.
Gosh.
He's the caller. And I'm yelling at him, hey, just put the sword down. Like, you're safe. Like, we're the police, And finally get him calmed down enough to put the sword down. Thank goodness. He's walking barefoot in all of this. Oh no. And at this point I'm so pissed off because this ends up being the son of the homeowner, his mom is getting government paychecks. She's collecting his Social Security and disability checks. Yeah. And she's using it to sell meth out of this house. So we get him out of there, and
I said heartwarming, Mike. Remember?
It is.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So we get him out of there. We talk to him for a bit. He gives us picture perfect details. And he's hearing all this from downstairs in the basement. Yeah. So we get him over to one of our partner agencies that helps when we have to remove kids, which is, obviously the worst thing. I mean, he's an adult, but he has, the functioning of probably about a 9 or 10-year-old.
Right.
So we get to take him in a police car out there. He's super excited about that. He gets all these stickers. We introduce him to some nice people, and he ends up, getting something to eat for the first time in a while.
Oh, kid.
It's probably about 6 or 9 months later. I get a court subpoena. They dropped the criminal charges against mom for whatever reason. But I get a court subpoena for like a custody hearing, and the state actually did the right thing and permanently took mom's rights away. But he had already found another foster home that was actually going to end up basically adopting him. Even though he was an adult, that he, was having a good relationship with. So part of the satisfaction for that for me was that mom, she was fighting tooth and nail trying to keep this kid, but she was just using him for years. Yeah. And so she didn't end up going with him. He was happy. He recognized me. And this was a 2-hour incident, and, this 19-year-old kid recognized me, about 6 to 8 months down the road. And I've seen him a couple of times since, but just at some of the community events. But yeah, it was, I'm just glad that we got him out of that situation. Cause he had nothing down there in that basement. I mean, who knows? She probably wouldn't even have reported, if anything would have happened to him. She would have just kept collecting that paycheck for the next, 50 years or however long she stayed alive. So,
damn, man.
So I think,
that feels good. That's a win. Definitely.
Yeah. That was a win. Because, I think the court failed on charging her with anything, but they at least did the right thing in the civil court and took her rights away. So
thank goodness. I know the state, they seem to, around these parts anyways, they'll do whatever they can not to remove a mom. The state very much wants you to take care of your kids. They don't want to take a kid, but situations like that, obviously they had to. And the podcast interview before yours, one of the Jeremy, he's active too. I can't say his last name, but he had a parent pimping their kid out.
Oh, Jesus!
Which is just like, can they just kill that guy right there? I mean, oh my gosh. Well, man,
that's a whole nother level of evil.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's great, man. I'm glad you got to see this kid down the road, and that's like the little victories you take away from this job, where it's like, nice. This is nice to see, like, you affected somebody's life and it's going well for them. So that's awesome, man. So the last question I ask is a very popular one, because there's a lot of people listening to podcasts that are they're candidates to be police officers, or they're actually active recruits, or they're brand new, and they're I think they're the best because they devour the podcast. They'll listen from.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of people find the podcast. Pat myself on the back, but it's not me. It's the people I interview, but they'll listen to all the podcasts. So I can see it in the numbers. People go through all the podcasts. They just listen back to back to back to back, and that's what these recruits do, because it's the unknown. They really want to know, like, what can I do to prepare myself for this job? So, Mike, what would you tell a recruit for some advice coming on the job?
First thing, stay out of trouble. That's
Personal
number
life.
one. As much as they're struggling to get police applicants these days, I feel like we're going to enter a whole another level of policing where we're just going to be short numbers, and they're just going to try to find, in their minds, the most qualified candidates. The other things I would say is, make sure you at least, are looking into the agency you're going to work for. You don't want to be somebody who's bouncing around, 4 or 5 agencies, just because, you didn't do your research on where you're going to work, or you don't like the place you want to work.
Right.
And get used to the city that you're going to work in. I don't think it's bad to go work somewhere that you don't currently live, but you should know something a little bit about where you're at, but yeah, and just have a good support network, whether that's family, friends, religious organization. You got to talk to somebody, otherwise this job is going to kill you pretty early.
Absolutely. Yeah. And don't be afraid or ashamed of that. You can go talk to somebody. So it costs you $10 on your copay, and you get to dump all your crap on somebody else. It feels great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
You
it
got
at
to
all.
deal with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Michael, thank you for coming on the show, brother. That was awesome.
It was a fun experience. So
really cool to finally have somebody. I think you're the first Nebraska person that's come on, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. I've said that before, and then I've always been wrong. I'm terrible memory. I don't even know what's going on in my own podcast, but I believe you are the first person from Nebraska that came on. So appreciate that, man. It's awesome. Great stories. You made me nervous in the beginning when we first started. You seemed very quiet. I was like, I hope this guy's a talker.
It was a new experience, so it takes me a minute to kind of warm up. But yeah, it was definitely a fun time.
No, you did great, brother. I appreciate it. So what I'm going to do, I do the outro, put you back in the green room. Can you hang out for like a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Is that cool? Okay.
Yep.
Hey guys, that was episode number 98. Big Mike from Nebraska. Great stories, and the academy stuff, woo baby, brought me back. Do not miss that. Too much stress. But yeah, awesome. First Nebraska guy. So thank you for listening to the podcast, guys. Thank you for stopping by. Behind this podcast, there's another 90 hours of interviews of just like this. Extreme moments, funny moments, bizarre moments that police officers see on the job. Please go through them, listen to them all. The stories. Each time I interview somebody, I'm always amazed about what these guys and gals are doing out there. thingspolicec.com. If you want to be a guest, yourself, you're a police officer, you want to come on, you want to share some stories, I encourage that. That'd be awesome. Or if your mom, your dad, aunt, uncle, cousin, sister, brother, whoever, police officers that have been on the job for a little bit and have some stories, want to come on, steve@thingspolicec.com, or you can just go to the website, thingspolicec.com, scroll down and click Be a Guest. If you really absolutely love the show and you want to become a monthly supporter, that's fantastic. You can also do that at thingspolicec.com, and I will read your name on roll call every single episode. So that's exciting for you. Monthly donorship, roll call. It's an even trade-off, I think. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.